In the past 13 months, more than 50,000 people have been killed, more than half of which are children and women. And the rest of the 2.3 million people, which are now maybe 2.1 million people or less, because the people who are counted dead are the ones who have arrived in the morgues at the hospital. The ones who are still under the rubble are in the thousands, and nobody really knows how many people have died. The Lancet study shows that from disease, hunger, and simply being under the rubble, up to 200,000 people have been killed, which is 10% of the population. If that is not genocide, I do not know what is. So Gaza has become a death camp, and the death camp is administered by the Israeli occupation regime, which does not want to see any Palestinians left in what they are calling Greater Israel, which is occupied Palestine. And the Canadian government, this is where you come in, onlookers and viewers who think this has nothing to do with you. The Canadian government is complicit in this genocide. The Canadian media is not reporting on every massacre that happens on a daily basis in Palestine, in Gaza. They are bombing UN shelters, they are bombing UN schools, and the Canadian media does not report on that. The Canadian government is actually sending explosives so that more bombs get dropped on Gazan women and children. And don't take my word for it, we have doctors, American and Canadian doctors, who have gone to Gaza to volunteer, and they have come back with their testimonies. And this is Dr. Tanya Haj Hassan, who is an American doctor, and this is her speaking at a CNN report.
And Dr. Haj Hassan, speaking of the evacuation orders in the north and now in the south that we've seen today, what do you think is going to happen with this humanitarian crisis, with the additional factor of Gaza is about to enter the winter, which often brings heavy rain?
Kate, in all honesty, a humanitarian crisis is what you deal with when you have a hurricane, what you deal with when you have an earthquake, and a humanitarian response. This is my career. This is what I do for a living. Every single person who does this for a living will tell you the same thing. This is different. This is not a humanitarian crisis. Kate, and I'm going to say it very clearly for your viewers to hear, this is genocide. When 70% of the population that are killed are women and children, when the population is starved of food, of water, of medicine, when you have attacks, repeated attacks on all the hospitals, the clinics, the aid distribution sites, the humanitarian aid agencies that try to help. More UN workers have been killed in Gaza than in UN's history. When you have over 900 families that have been exterminated, that have been taken off of the civil registry, killed, when you have over 17,000 children that have lost one or both parents, when you have bakeries, aid distribution sites, churches, mosques, schools, and in the last 3 days, in the last 24 hours, in fact, a hospital today that was bombed, as you just reported, the hospital where I personally was working, and I can tell you, they are working every second of every day to try and sustain life when Israel's strategy and evidence on the ground suggests that they're doing the exact opposite. They were targeted today. There was a rehabilitation center that was targeted in the last 24 hours, and there was an orphanage that was targeted earlier this week. These are the types of places that are being targeted. And so it's really hard to hear it over and over and over again, framed in the way that it's being framed in the media, which frankly, Kate, is very misleading. It is very misleading. 365 days of this. Death tolls that are so far outdated, we have no idea how many people are killed, but I am I am genuinely afraid about what we're going to find out when the dust settles. History books will be written on this, and countries will have to reckon, media agencies will have to reckon with their major role in the genocide of an entire population and in the destruction of humanitarian law.
Israel is a terrorist state. Israel is a terrorist state. Israel is a terrorist state. And we are here to let you know what has been going on in Gaza and what you can do to help turn off the tap to this genocidal machine. This genocidal machine which is using your tax dollars to subsidize so-called charities that are sending lone soldiers, mercenaries, to go and kill women and children in Gaza. There are charities that are still doing this as we speak in Canada, making use of your subsidized tax dollars. And there are still investment boards like the Canada Pension Plan that has invested more than $23 billion in weapons manufacturers and companies that violate international law and humanitarian law, companies that are literally making bombs that are dropping on the heads of Palestinian women and children. And the Canadian government and the pension plan and all sorts of investment boards are invested in those companies, which is a shame and which should be a war crime. And so we are here to let you know that you can do something about it. You can call your MP, you can call your MLA, and you can call them to task. Ask them, what have you done so that my country has no blood on its hands? Thank you. Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine!